I'm Mr. White Christmas. I'm Mr. Snow. I'm Mr. Icicle. I'm Mr. Ten Below. Hey there, comic friends. I'm Travis. Time for the edition of Monster Comic Reviews, where I talk about my monster pile of superhero comics I'm reading for the week of November 26, 2014. Last week of November. Quite a few books, lots of Gotham oriented books, it seems like. I used to not be such a Gotham person. Well, I always liked Gotham, but I don't know. My pull wasn't so heavy in this, but this week it certainly is. New books to try out and whatnot, right? So that kind of puts me there. Plus, I just kind of like Gotham. I like the machine, the living thing that is Gotham. So we're going to explore some of Gotham today. So we'll start with in alphabetical order, of course, as much as my brain goes in alphabetical order. Arkham Manor, issue number 2. Like a lot of people, wasn't exactly sure about this book as far as where does it fit into the grand scheme of the Bat universe. Is this needed? I mean, because both Batman and Detective Comics both always explore Arkham in some sense or another. You know, so do we need an entire book that's based just on that? You know, what are we going to get? Well, I guess as long as it's telling me a good story and I'm entertained, I don't care whether the story could be in those other books or be in its own title. Other than clearly if it's in its own title, then they can hit me on the pocketbook for 2 books as opposed to just 1, right? So I guess there is that. Anyway, I'm enjoying the title. Second issue, I definitely decided that I like it. I don't feel as uneasy about the whole fact that this is all happening inside of Wayne Manor, which has been converted to, to Arkham Asylum. They don't like touch on that a whole lot in here. Very briefly, they do a little bit. I think I just had enough time to get over the shell shock of it, and so it doesn't concern me quite so much. I mean, I personally still question how Bruce Wayne, how and why Bruce Wayne would allow this to happen. So I'm not fully accepting of that, and I'm hoping that still gets explored more in the book, that whole aspect of it. But that being said, this issue in particular, I'm still enjoying it. I like the style of artwork that's in here. Let me double check who the creators are. Sean Crystal is doing the art. Dave McCraig, who is another outstanding long-term colorist, is doing the colors on the book, and Jerry Duggan is doing the writing. I really enjoy it. I like this new Brad Shaw. This Brad's his first name? Shaw. I know Shaw is his last name for sure. This new persona that Batman is using to infiltrate the crazy house, as opposed to using Matches Malone. Boy, I'm drawing a blank there. Matches Malone to infiltrate the gangs and the mobsters and Blackgate. I like that aspect of it. It's really interesting. There's an interesting dilemma going on this with somebody that's killing Arkham inmates. We get the impression that it's Zaz through this, which ends up not being the case. We get some wonderful frontal lobotomy going on with hand drills and some other excitements in there that's really fun. There's a great scene where he needs to call in that there's an inmate has been brought in to Arkham, and they don't know who it is, but of course Batman recognizes who it is, and so he needs to call that in and warn somebody. So he has to sneak out of his prison cell basically and call using his Batman voice to warn Arkham of who they've got in their place, which I thought was kind of fun. Another very, very interesting thing about this, we get exposure to the best of my knowledge, a new character in here. And what makes it interesting is the character's name is Sybil Silverlock. And the actual line goes, like Silverlock, if she wakes up from her coma, she has a more destructive personality. Calamity, in quotes. She could burn the manor down. And there's a picture of this woman, you know, clearly in a coma, eyes taped shut, and the breather and all that kind of stuff. Well, that is the main character for Gotham Academy's mother. Or at least they have the same last name, so I'm assuming it's a mother. They both have white hair. So why is this little nugget of Gotham information dropped in this book as opposed to Gotham Academy? So now part of the mystery of what's going on in Gotham Academy has been answered to some degree for me. You know, now I can start guessing at some more ideas of what happened. You know, clearly Mom's crazy, you know, is in the nut house. She's clearly a, you know, villain, you know, criminally insane in some fashion. Now I can start building all that stuff up. But if I wasn't reading this book, I would never know that. So now I'm really curious to see in Gotham Academy how that gets answered or whatnot. So that's really curious and interesting. I mean, I don't dislike that the world of Gotham blends between all these things, because logically it would in some sense or another. But I just think it's curious that this would be in this book and not in the other book. I will be looking up the editors to see if they're the same editors, and then I'll ponder from a larger craft standpoint, why did they put that in this book and not in the book that we've been introduced to characters related to this in the first place. But still really enjoying this, really liking the book. Curious to see what goes. I don't see how long this book can last. It still feels to me like this can't be any kind of a long-term sort of a commitment. You know, it says it's an ongoing. How long that story really is going to be, I don't know, because I mean, how long can he spend in Arkham undercover? I mean, is there just going to continue to be mysteries and crimes inside Arkham for him to explore, or what? But anyway, enjoying it for now. Curious to see who the bad guy is, who the perpetrator is, and where that all leads us to. Batman Eternal, issue number 34. We get to find out how resourceful Penny 2 is in this when she's out in the field, which I really enjoyed. I still really like that character. Less questioning in this one. There's more action as far as her character is in it. We get a final throwdown with Hush in here. And spoilers if you haven't read this, wait until I'm holding up a different comic. Don't listen to this, because I'm going to talk in, you know, some level of detail about this. So go away if you don't want to be spoiled. So Hush isn't the ultimate bad guy. We kind of knew that, right? At least I was guessing that wasn't the case. Too early exposure to the ultimate bad guy for that to be the case with as many issues as we still have to go going forward. So who is the ultimate bad guy? Anybody out there got a guess? Because clearly Hush isn't the ultimate bad guy because he had the invitation in his pocket too. You know, the invitation that says in 2 weeks Jim Gordon's going to be taken care of. The rest is up to you. So I just keep wondering, who is it that has such a serious beef with Jim Gordon? Why is Jim Gordon the focal of this whole thing? You know, so somebody who doesn't like Gotham, and so they go after Jim Gordon, or they don't like Jim Gordon, and Gotham going down is just a secondary to that, or do they really understand that? Do they really understand that Gordon and Batman are kind of an intricately linked kind of a machine that makes up the way Gotham crime fighting works, and so they're taking Jim Gordon out as another way to get to Batman. You know, and who would that be? Clearly, I don't think it's the Joker, just because of what's going on in the Batman title. You know, some of us have thrown out there that maybe it's James Gordon Jr. He's a complete and absolute psychopath. This would kind of be along his lines in a lot of ways. But that doesn't make sense, right? Because at one point, Junior shows up, lets Dad know that he's still alive, and gives him the opportunity to walk out of Arkham and save himself. That seems like exposing himself in kind of a strange way to be the mastermind behind all this. You know, so then we start looking around. Well, you know, who could it be? I'm suspicious it's Hugo Strange. You know, he does a lot of psychological warfare kind of things. Wants to be Batman. I don't know that he has a personal grudge against Gordon, though, because we haven't seen him in the New 52. But I'm just curious. If you have guesses, you know, let me know. You know, who do you think it is? Let's start putting odds on who it is out there that's perspective. Or is it gonna be somebody completely new? I don't think it's going to be something completely new, but be curious to see. Still enjoying it as a weekly book. Curious to see what's next. What's the next thing that's going to unfold? Catwoman issue number 36. Second issue of the new team. Second issue of the new storyline of Selene Kyle exploring being this crime lord and trying to clean up Gotham, make Gotham a better place so the people that she feels a kinship to, a responsibility to, and helping them get through all the horrible stuff that's been happening, stemming out of Batman Eternal and all of that. I'm really enjoying it. I like the writing style. I like the literary references and quotes that tends to kind of begin and end every issue. I think it's interesting. I love Gary Brown's art in this. I think it works for kind of a more of a seedy, soprano-y kind of a way of addressing stuff. There's some other interesting things that go on in here. You know, she has her own moral dilemmas going on as to what she's going to do. You know, she's kind of put between a rock and a hard place. She needs to get these guns out of Gotham. The best way for her to do that is over the docks. To get access to the docks, she's potentially going to promise another one of the gangs that she's going to deal heroin for them, which clearly is not something that she personally wants to do. So I find all that interesting. I find all those moral choices interesting to see what she does there. A character is in this that kind of helps physically give us that question of her moral judgments and whatnot. A woman dresses up as Catwoman to attack her and basically say, look, Catwoman wouldn't do this, and kind of implying that she should go back to Catwoman. But she's fighting that urge to be Catwoman because she really does think right now that her best direction is to be this crime lord, and that's how she's going to save the city. I'm enjoying it. I like it. I like the political maneuvering that goes on amongst the politics of these gangs as to how they're going to be successful and whatnot. So I'm digging it for that. And of course, this is a wonderful Jolly cover. I love the representation here. You know, her being hung by Catwoman and stuff is just great. All around great. Next up is COWL. This is issue number 6. This is an origin issue. It's kind of an in-between arcs, and it's an origin of the Grey Raven. And the wonderful thing about the way this is written is this comic book represents the comic book that came out in the 60s for the actual person in this reality called the Grey Ghost. So this is a comic that's, I don't know, probably doesn't pick up on camera. You see the yellowing and the stains that are on it? That's all part of the comic. So the comic has this old 1960s feel to it, the way it's drawn, the way it's written, everything about it. It's a straight up, straightforward origin book, you know, with pulpy supervillains and everything. But one of the things that's really fun in it, the advertisements that are in it are absolutely great. Because here's the one of the advertisement pages, and it is right there. You see pollo, extra crunchy chicken. And that is hilarious because, of course, that's for Chew. That's an advertisement for the Chew image book. And
he's busy at the moment.
The next one is it's an ad for 2 books. One is Witches and one is Nailbiter. 2 more image books, and it's kind of interesting just to see what it is. So. That's funny. That's funny that the ads are actual image books and whatnot. So I think that's all amusing and entertaining. I mean, there's even toys that the toys are of the era and of this comic. Now, the comic itself, it gives you kind of it gives you the origin of how the Grey Ghost came about. You know, what his motivations are. Comes from a family of policemen. Finds out that he wants to be a policeman too since he was a very small child. Finds out his dad's on the take. He's disillusioned there. He becomes a fighter for a while. He gets up to the top ranks, gets ready to fight for a championship, and somebody wants him to be on the take. And he just kind of keeps moving away from disgust of all that stuff until finally he takes fighting crime into his own hands and busting up the organizations that are these, you know, machines and whatnot. So good for what it was. Lots of fun. I'm looking forward to getting back to the regular book and whatnot. But this is a cool way to give the regular artist a break for him to get caught up on the new storyline, but still give us content without a huge, break in a long time between stories and stuff. So it was fun for that. Okay, next up is Gotham by Midnight issue #1. Of course, quickly recognizable Ben Templesmith on art there, and written by Ray Fox. Excited by the idea of this book. Wasn't sure. Ray Fox is one of those writers that's hot and cold for me. I really like Ben Templesmith's art, but I did not want to go into this book buying it for Ben Templesmith's art because I always have some concerns here in the recent history of him not staying on books very long, or kind of flaking out, or just disappearing, and then the publishers and other creators are left to kind of cobble something together, and I don't want to cobble together a book, things like 10 grand and stuff like that. So that said, I needed some sort of hook going into it. Well, Jim Corrigan and this group of consultants and police detectives who work in the 13th precinct to deal with the kind of weird and supernatural stuff that goes on in Gotham that the regular police department doesn't want to deal with, that sort of thing. Well, I'm in. I'm in because it has to do with the Gotham Police Department, which I always think is a cool thing anyway. Special branch of the Gotham Police Academy having to do with the supernatural, which is another thing I really like. So I'm on board unless it really is a stinker, because I like those combinations of things. Now, is it executed well? I think as a whole it is in this issue. I think it's interesting. I like how they have a IA show up, an internal affairs investigator shows up at the 13th precinct. He's already predetermined that the precinct thing isn't really doing anything. They haven't closed any cases. They don't have any paperwork. That they're just someplace that somebody's sneakily hiding some money away to, and it's inappropriate, and he's going to shut them down. He's already determined that. He's just there for like 24 hours just to make it official, and he's canning the place. Well, Jim Corrigan's going to drag him along on a case and see what happens. He'll see whether or not they really do what they're supposed to do. Are they really fighting crime? Are they really making Gotham a safer place? Whether they file the paperwork for it or not. So, we get the scientist, we have a nun on board, we get this, we get to a scene where it's, I think it's a meatpacking plant, or it's an abandoned place, whatever. You can briefly see Batman in there, Batman meeting with Jim Corrigan, and Batman hands him a handful of cases, and he spreads them out on the floor, kind of looks them psychically all over, and pulls out one and says, I want this one, this is one that's for me. So Batman is using him as a source to deal with the supernatural, because that's not really Batman's thing. Loved that part. That was great. And it's kind of an interesting thing. It has to do with the swamp in this. Clearly something crazy's gone on. There's some great shots in here. The guy who's doubting them, people speaking in tongues, that's pretty awesome too. The cynic, the guy who's doubting them, the internal affairs man is going with Corrigan. They're out in the swamp. They're both getting really uneasy. He's getting more money. He's like, I don't think we should really be going here. I think maybe we should turn around. And Jim Corrigan's like going, that feeling you got in your gut that's telling you to run, that's what we're fighting. That's what we're going for. That's what we're after. And they come upon this abandoned building that seems abandoned, open it up, and bam, it's full of all kinds of stuff. I liked it. I thought it was cool. I liked it. Ben Templesmith's art. Clearly, I think his art was dialed back in this somewhat, which I think is fine. I think it's a way for him to be able to do a monthly book. And yeah, I like the brief taste we've gotten of all the characters. I think is really cool. So excited about that book. I'm looking forward to exploring for however long it is. I'm curious to see, are we going to bust out? Are we going to bust out the Spectre at some point? Is the Spectre going to come slamming out? When is that going to happen? How is that going to work with the rest of them that are going on? But yeah, it's cool. It's cool. I'm digging it. Okay, another kind of odd superhero book. The Sundowners. I've been kind of all over the place on this book as far as how I feel. I mean, for a while I was uncomfortable because I couldn't ascertain whether these people were nutbags or whether things were really going on around them. Do they really have powers? Do they not have powers? What's going on? I like to have some level of sure footing to then be able to base the reality that they're giving me on, and do the characters work within the kind of constraints of their of what they need to do and where they're at and how they should behave and what they might do and all that kind of stuff. Really liking the book with issue number 4. Clearly, these people, if they don't have powers, they believe in them well enough that they might as well have powers. And we get some pretty heavy brutality. Ex-boyfriend stalker goes after our woman who commits minor sins to use that power for the greater good. Gets in a big brawl with Joe Citizen, which was pretty cool, and some pretty brutal scenes in that. We are our man who was mute and suffering from partial paralysis is able to speak now. He's kind of locked in a church with this seemingly cult. They're worshiping this higher power that's going to transcend these 4 Sundowners. They already seem to kind of be able to see the light. This is supposed to transform them the rest of the way. Kind of thing is going on. Heavy conspiracies in here. Not a real decent way for me to explain it without having to go into lots and lots of detail. It's a bit surreal in places. There's definitely some hallucinatory points. But I'm really enjoying it. I like the art. The art's kind of more of a simple, pulpy, kind of an art. Reminiscent, for me, feels like some of the art that was in, like Creepy Comics or, drawing a blank on some of the other names of some of the comics, some of the more horror-esque type comics of the early 60s and stuff like that. Yeah, but I'm really, I'm really enjoying it. I think it's really interesting, interesting take on these kind of would-be potential superheroes. So yeah, I'm on for the long haul now, I think, at this point. Tim Seeley and Jim Terry. Some interesting stuff. And finally this time, Superior Foes of Spider-Man issue number 17, the final issue. Not exactly what I thought was going to happen, but I'm still really satisfied with it. It's basically, the book comes down to being a celebration of the loser. And as much as these people are losers, they're striving in life to try and succeed at something, to have a dream, to move forward, to do their best to try and get to that point. And I like that stuff. I like that kind of thing. The not corny underdog, Rocky kind of a thing, but more of the realistically, you're never going to actually succeed at it, but the try anyway. I really enjoyed that in this, and it kind of all comes together. This issue's less funny. It has funny moments in it, but just kind of, for me, ties it up in a kind of a sweet sort of a way in their struggle and what they do manage to succeed at and what they don't manage to succeed at. And there's a great part at the very end of this. This all seems to be just basically has been a story that's been being told at a bar. Boomerang is there. There's another guy that's silhouetted. Find out his name is Pete, and he's buying Cat Boomerang drinks. And I think Pete's supposed to be Peter Parker. And they have this conversation. Hey, it'd be great, and all this stuff. And it ends in a soprano kind of way, which was all wonderful. Just a really nice way to end the book. I enjoyed it. I felt good with the ending. It wasn't an bummer ending. It didn't end in a cornball kind of way. It didn't end in some stupid, cheesy kind of way. It didn't, any of that kind of stuff. It kind of ended like it started, with a bunch of losers trying to get one over anywhere they can to say they were successful somewhere, and maybe not being successful anyway. But that's what life's about. And I really enjoyed it for that. It was really great. Anyway, and that is it for Monster Comic Reviews. Thanks for watching if you watched. What'd you think? You read these books? Have a different opinion? What's going on with you? Anyway, see y'all later.